Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the next episode of our amazing podcast. Today we are finally joining this thing together with Toma, the incredible Toma. How are
Thank you
you?
so much for this stellar introduction. I'm doing great. Yeah, I've been looking forward to it, really. And we have a quite juicy topic to discuss,
Yeah, the
right?
topic is amazing. Bad language learning advice and good one, right?
So we are teaching like higher levels. I feel like even at this level, yeah, this whole thing is rife with some myths, right? That we or will try debunk to debunk. So we'll see how that goes. So I kind of thought about
Okay.
some myths or facts. So we're going to discuss some good and bad pieces of advice that we hear, and since we
Mm-hmm.
do cross paths with so many high level students, so that
Yeah,
thing is
definitely.
pretty common.
A lot of experience to draw from, right? Okay, would you like to start?
All right.
Or
So I'm going to like tell you about one piece of advice, and you will rate it how bad or good
all
this
right.
is. Yeah, this
I'm
is. So the
scared.
first thing, instantly. So when I started thinking about it, the first thing that came to my mind is so many people recommend switching your phone language, and basically switching the language on all of your devices, because you kind of learn a few words effortlessly. So again, we're talking about higher levels. So what is your take on that thing? Are your devices all switched into English?
They are, but probably for a different reason because I lived in Canada for a while and it was kind of easier that way because sometimes you had to like Google stuff, like how to do something related to like government, and the apps had to be in English just because it's easier that way. But overall, I would say that it's pretty useless. Honestly, like you will probably learn a couple terms here and there, like settings, uh, the names of certain buttons, but realistically, it's kind of similar to the advice, like people gave back in the day with like sticky notes, like post-it notes with vocabulary, like right in front of you, put it on the fridge, you see it every day, and that's how you kind of memorize it. I feel like after a while, you just forget about it and you just kind of process, you kind of go through the motions and you're not paying attention to that anymore. Same with the phone, I feel like. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You just kind of you remember everything and you don't pay attention to those things that you see. And yeah, you might learn a couple things as you go, but it's not gonna, I don't know, work, yeah, miracles. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a must if you want to get to see a full exposure. It's one tiny step, but yeah, we can't expect too much out of that.
Yeah, it's
So
probably not the first thing I would start with because there's so much more you need to learn before you want to get into the nitty gritty, like learning all of the names of the buttons and stuff. I mean, I'm pretty
yeah.
sure even native speakers don't really know them because, like, again, we're just monkeys looking at this bright screen. Kind of, yeah, like whatever is attractive, we press it. And they made the interfaces these days, yeah, like pretty simple. You don't have to be smart to navigate that.
Absolutely, it's pretty intuitive, right? You can find your way around it pretty quickly. So, so this one is a bit overrated. Yeah.
A bit
So
overrated, yeah, maybe
it's not bad, but right,
do it
it's a good thing
if
to.
don't expect magic to
Yeah,
happen. All right. So what do
hit
you
me.
think about immersing yourself in the language and, watching shows and kind of expecting to absorb the language? By that I mean like just immersing, not doing anything else, no study whatsoever, like no conscious effort.
Well, I think it's a bare minimum. Especially if you can't actually find a different way to immerse, like going to this English-speaking country, which is going to be my next point, that you have to go there and to be like fully immersed in the language. By creating this artificial immersion, it can do the trick, but again, it's not gonna like rub off magically on you. You're not gonna memorize a ton of words. It's just a nice way to be immersed in that culture, and it might keep you motivated. You're just always on the lookout for new vocabulary, and you can realize how much you don't know, because that's essential to realize how much there is still to learn, how much you're just still like how many. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, not to fall prey to the Dunning-Kruger effect, or what is it called? Yeah, Dunning-Kruger, I think.
It's interesting. It only happens when you start learning something and you feel like, oh, I know so much. Yeah,
I miss those times. I don't know, like what to say. Like being intermediate and thinking that, oh my gosh, I rock. I am the star.
It is so counterintuitive. Like the more you know, the more you get immersed into a new subject, you just realize, oh, there is so much to learn. Yeah, there is so much more to it than meets the eye. So it's pretty fascinating. I guess it's the minimum. If you do the complete opposite, you just keep consuming the content in your first language, in your mother tongue, you can't expect to make any progress. So I would say it's good, but
also incorporate some speaking into it, at least. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't know how I feel about it, because from what I know, science says that we kind of acquire languages through comprehensible input. So there's like no debate about that. You need to understand the language first before you can speak it well. But then again, it really depends on your goals. If your goal is just to read and, watch movies, and, surf the web, maybe that's more than enough for you. Just, immersing yourself, creating this artificial environment, as you said. But if you want to be an eloquent, more or less, speaker, because there's always room for improvement, right? As you said, you have to immerse and also speak a lot. And I cannot stress this enough. You have to do it a lot. And again, with our students, for example, at the fluency courses that we have, they often wonder like, oh my gosh, like there's so much vocabulary to cover. And I always say like, this is not the primary goal, right? Like the primary goal is for you to finally, lose your inhibitions and start speaking as much as possible. So yes, like vocabulary is helpful. And again, it's called glossary there with like 50 or 60 words that we have, right? Mm-hmm. So you can pick like the ones that you like, but don't force yourself to use all of them because it's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's more about becoming comfortable, with the words that you know already. That's how I feel, at least.
Right. And it should be more about pleasure rather than I don't know, pain. taking notes. I feel like it's painstakingly difficult to like pause every time you see something, like look it up or write it in the notebook.
Did you used to do it? Because I did. I'm guilty as charged. I did that.
Well,
for a while, and it helped.
That is
a little.
Yeah, of course, it does the trick, but it kind of takes all the fun out of it, right? If you do it, it's more of it's part of the studying process. So that's why they also say, oh, you have to watch movies without subtitles. Why do people demonize subtitles? I just don't get it.
I have no idea, because I recently found out, like maybe a year ago, I read that there's like research about it, that native speakers these days also use subtitles because apparently they sacrifice dialogue quality, and, voiceovers are no longer a thing for movies and shows. So like native speakers can't hear what's being said because the audio quality is just so poor. I mean, like, just like the clarity. You can hear the wave of sound, but there's just no clarity in what they're saying. And a lot of actors, for example, like this dude, I don't remember his name. He's just like mumbling his words all the time. He's not like so nothing wrong with using captions. Please do, because
Exactly.
that's amazing. Like this is how you learn.
Yeah, I sometimes wish people had subtitles. Yeah, like above their head. Maybe it's something that is coming up. So yeah, for now, just yeah, it's giving Black Mirror.
Given Black Mirror, yeah, right. I was gonna say, yeah, if it's any consolation, I have a subtitled face sometimes.
Yeah. So another tip that a lot of specialists and swear by is you have to go. Or it's not just specialists, but people assume that when once they go to this English speaking country for speaking of English, that's when the switch would be flipped, and you will start absorbing this language like a sponge, and it will just you will like magically make the leap from A1 to like C2. And I've never set foot in an English speaking country, so I hope you will
Yeah,
share
look
your
at
take.
you. No, that's definitely, I mean, if you are there and you're also doing something on the side, like, you know, the basics at least, so you are like, let's say upper intermediate, like B2, yeah, that's probably gonna give you a huge boost, because at that point, I feel like you'll be able to figure out the gaps contextually, you know, vocabulary wise, or even grammar structure. So you don't have to learn like the very basics. You're already familiar with the tenses and like some of the basic stuff, right? You just polish everything, and from that point on, interacting with native speakers gives you a chance to expand your vocabulary. And I feel like that's one of the main challenges from B2 upwards. But if you just go there with zero knowledge whatsoever and expect that just being surrounded by people will somehow magically teach you the language, that is such a misconception. Again, there are so many immigrants that I personally know that have lived in those countries for years, decades even, right? Like, and they do speak the language pretty fluently, but then they sound very uneducated because accuracy is just not there. If you feel like that's all right for you, you will probably pick up some language and will be able to understand what people want from you and will be able to survive. But if you want to, you know, pass or at least be accepted in the community as an equal, more or less, I mean, probably people will still clock you as a non-native unless you are Julia or you or Nina with your amazing accents. Other than that, it's kind of pointless in a way, but it's amazing when you already have the foundation and then you go and see that language that you have learned from textbooks and in classes actually is spoken by people, and it kind of gives you an extra, you know, boost of motivation to keep going, because, you know, as we all know, language learning is about consistency. Sometimes it's hard to stick to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be at a decent level already. And it does give you the benefit of being able to engage in those daily interactions. But I mean, only in case you put yourself out there. I know I've crossed paths with so many students of ours who are based in the U.S., in Canada, in other English-speaking countries, and they just kind of living in this bubble, and they rarely interact. So they're kind of struggling with the same things that people do who've never been there and who've never been exposed to that environment. So. Yeah, so sadly it doesn't happen, so it kind of requires some more effort.
Yeah, I think what it has given me, so I think I went to the US for the first time in 2014, a very long time ago. I'm old, sorry sorry about that. Yeah, and it just made me realize how much I don't know. Again, I was already in my second year in uni, right? Like, so allegedly I was supposed to more or less know the language, and I did, but it was, you know, like book smarts, that kind of thing. And then I came there and I still remember how I wasn't able to decipher what the taxi driver, who was first of all from Texas, That's like one thing. The southern accents, right? Like
Southern drawl.
yeah, and then he was also black, which is another, stage because they also have like a certain way of speaking, mostly vocabulary wise, I would say, yeah, but I wasn't able to understand a thing. I mean, it took me a while, yeah, but it has given me a boost, again, because of the foundation that I had.
So it might serve as a wake-up call, like how much there is still to learn and like where you're at, what exactly you need to work on. Because I love our students who are based in English speaking countries, like they know exactly, they get into those situations, they talk about those tight spots where they have had this miscommunication because of the accent, because of the wrong sounds or the wrong word or like the wrong tense they use, the wrong preposition. So it's like oddly specific, and it's really priceless that you can like pinpoint exactly where your where those areas are you need to work on.
I feel like, again, circling back to research, the field of second language acquisition is pretty small, so we have to take everything with a grain of salt, because usually when they do research, the sample sizes are very small, like 50 students, and there's pretty much no longitudinal studies. It's usually like maybe a month or two. So like, they'd be like, like flashcards. Here are the words, learn them, and then like they come back and test you in 2 weeks. So like, but there's no studies that are following somebody for years, and language learning takes years basically if you want to take it to a high level. So what I was gonna say is that there's like two competing theories: the input theory, like people that are advocating for the importance of input, exposure, all of that, and people that argue that, well, output is still important, and they can't quite reach consensus. I feel like output, its main role again is activating the knowledge and expediting the process of recall. Let's put it in a fancy way. So it makes it faster, makes you come up with words and grammar structures faster, but also, as you said, it helps you identify the gaps that you have in knowledge. So you are trying to convey some thought and you realize that, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank, like I don't know this word. So you ask your teacher, or I have no idea how to express regrets in that language, or you name it.
Absolutely. So so those situations might highlight those gaps that you might need to work on. So what are some other tips that you heard, that you came across?
So I wanted to touch upon this one. It's not quite a tip, but it's more like never use your first language in teaching or learning. So never refer to translations of certain terms and expressions. So how do you feel about that? Is it helpful, or is it to the detriment?
I love that you brought it up. Yes, I was in that camp, like for L1 is a no-go. It's off limits. Like you have to give as much exposure, like English exposure as possible. But sometimes, why not use it to our own advantage? So, because that's the perk of speaking the same language. So we can use that word if it's one word, like translate. Why give this long ass definition when you can just give one word or one phrase? Our students sometimes, how do you express that? I'm like, that's how. Because still, even higher level students, they still tend to translate, or not translate in their head, but it's just how our brains are wired.
And again,
so
it's usually, it's not that they're like translating. I would say that it's sometimes they come up against a block, right? Like a word is just missing from their vocabulary, but they know that word in Russian, right? So they are kind of looking for something similar in English, but they just don't know it. It's not like they were translating from Russian into English while they were speaking. They just, come across a word they don't know, and they're like, okay, what is that in English?
I've grown to become a bit more flexible, with that.
Same.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was intermediate and I heard that advice, I didn't realize that it came from the fact that most, ESL, EFL, right? Like it is taught in, mixed ethnic classes where like people come from different countries and there's no lingua franca. Like if you teach a class full of Russian speakers, why not just use translation again sparingly? You don't have to use it all the time, and it doesn't mean that you suddenly need to start speaking Russian in classes. And also, the more proficient you become in the language, the more you realize that there are actually a lot more similarities between our languages than we think. But sometimes those connections in meaning, it's not that obvious. For example, like the word cringe, yeah? Like, so cringe kind of like literally means like, you can understand that by extension. So it's a metaphor if something is cringy, yeah, like cringeworthy. So it's like it's making you go like this. So it's very logical, and there are a lot of words like this again, like that. If you literally translate it in Russian, yeah, it's this, but then the metaphor kind of changes the meaning a little bit, so you can't really translate it into Russian like directly. Certain words, you feel like it's better, especially if it's higher levels and it's like terms from economics or politics. Like it's way faster to just translate it. Or medicine, for example, like how am I supposed to explain what an ulcer is? Like we had this word like it come up the other day, and I was like, okay, like ulcer, like I might as well just translate it because it's faster. Like nobody knows what an ulcer is at an expert level anyways.
Absolutely. Yeah, just to make sure. Yeah, everyone. Because, adults, are often afraid to put their reputation on the line and ask a question and like double check if they got it right. So, which means it was just, that new word was down the drain, so they didn't get it. So it makes sense, to make sure they understand it. So. Yeah, that's a great tool. Why not utilize it? All right. So another thing is, I often hear like you have to get this native speaker who was born, speaking that language.
Let me stare at the camera so I can roll my eyes. Please go on. Sorry.
Yeah. So what do you think about that? Opting for a native speaker instead of a person who went through this arduous process and found a way to get to this level, to learn it, and kind of learn some tricks, get this education and get this extensive go through this whole process firsthand.
I don't even know where to start. So the way I see it, if you really want to reach native-like fluency and proficiency, in the language, there is no way around replicating, the way they learned it. So even though they say that adults don't learn their second language the same way because we already have a language in our brains, and it kind of gets that system that's already in place gets utilized while we're learning the second language, so it interferes no matter what you do. You can speak only English, but people will still, try to find equivalents for the concepts in their native language. So if your goal is to get there, probably there's no way around it. You will have to consume a lot of content and use comprehensible input and go through the same thing, which is impossible. Like you will have to get an education, primary, secondary, and then tertiary if we're speaking about really eloquent native speakers. And also a lot of C2 students, for example, have a problem with household vocabulary because they were never, brought up in that environment where it was used regularly. So it makes sense on the surface level, right? But if we really drill down into it, and for anyone who's ever had classes with most native speakers, I'm not speaking about those educated in methodology and ESL, the way they structure their classes, right, is preposterous. There's absolutely, it's just a speaking club at best. And if you are at a lower level, you will not be able to benefit from that other than, maybe losing your inhibitions and overcoming that language barrier that a lot of people have. Again, the benefit could also be just seeing the language come to life. But other than that, I feel like, people who have gone through the process of acquiring that language and have managed to take it to a very high level are much better at teaching it, because even if they don't have, a formal education and methodology, even in that case, they're still better because they can just, replicate what they did personally, what helped them, and usually it's more effective than hiring a native speaker, even if it's not like using the cutting edge methods. Yeah, like
Right.
highly overrated, I would say.
Yeah, those teachers have to kind of check a few boxes, like they have to get education, they have to get have experience, and ideally they have to learn a second language. So themselves, they have to have gone through this whole process themselves.
What always
Yeah.
surprised me, like there are a lot of bloggers, influencers that are pretty popular. They have lots of subscribers that don't speak a second language, but they dish out language learning advice, like left, right, and center for whatever reason.
How?
Like, how do you know it works? Like, you've never learned a language, like, right? How do you know it works?
All right. I wouldn't yet take advice from those teachers at face value.
Have you had any experience yourself, like maybe like learning from natives? So how do you feel about it in general?
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't been lucky enough, because all they did is that they just talked my ear off, and I didn't learn much. I was just, oh wow, they're speaking so well. I wish I could speak like that, but that was it. So it was a lot of
And the
kind of,
feedback as well, like they're
potential.
always like, "Oh my gosh, you already speak so well," when you know for a fact that
they're like
you don't.
showering you. Yeah, showering with praise and compliments, and they're just praising on the vocab and your accent and everything. But like, no, give me I don't need the praises. Like, give me the criticism. Like, spot my mistakes, inaccuracies, some errors in like pronunciation. No, like nothing. Really, what
that's
what is
like,
the most valuable is the criticism, or not the criticism, but the critique. Some mistakes, some inaccuracies. That's what I'm seeking out.
yeah, definitely. And again, like with higher levels, you need to have someone there who's not only just gonna sit there and listen to you talk, which you can already do usually at C1, C2 levels, right? Like, but someone who can offer you ways of putting something in a more elaborate way that sounds like either more natural or just fancier. Because at that point, I feel like past C1 at least, the point is no longer to just learn the language, it's to become more eloquent. Yeah, like I can already get my point across on most topics, but I still have to speak on certain topics because I've never talked about those topics before. I've never discussed them at length. Crime, for example, yeah, like this topic, or like law, medicine, like we know, like I came down with something, and that's kind of what we resort to. But if you go past that, like nothing. I mean, you know a lot, but then you watch Grey's Anatomy. That happened to me, for example, and you're like, oh my gosh, so many words to learn again. But then after 20 seasons, you learn them, and you're like, okay, you might as well just teach my students now. And they're like,
Have you
how do you
managed
know
to
that?
retain them?
Yes,
Oh, they
after
just, came
20
and went.
seasons. After 20 seasons, of course, yes. But again, speaking of the importance of speaking, those levels, these are words that are rather infrequent. So you have to consciously, deliberately practice them. Yes, you will recognize them when you hear them, but a lot of them, when it's time for you to actually use them, like incorporate them into your speech, like you are drawing a blank. Again, like if you take your time, you can probably come up with it usually, but we don't have time in conversations, right? Like nobody's gonna sit there and wait for you while you're trying to come up with that like particular word.
Right, especially if it's like, oh, there is one obscure word that I heard somewhere, but it will take me an hour to remember it, and so it's not gonna come to me, but it
Do
will.
your
Yeah.
students do that? Because mine sometimes do, and I have to like tell them to their face, and like that's not the point. Learn how to handle it, like circumnavigate around that. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Paraphrase. Yeah, if you can't come up with a word, well, if I'm usually there to help if I get what they're trying to say, but if I'm not there, just yeah, paraphrase. Don't be kind of
again, we're
get
also not
unstuck.
robots. Sometimes like I can't like I know that there is like a different way to put it, definitely, but well, maybe I didn't sleep well and I just am not on the ball today, right? Like I can't come up with it myself. So you have to
It's
learn
only
how
natural.
to be flexible, as you yeah said. Okay, I have one for you. Oh, sorry.
All right. I
Keep going.
also have one. So okay, yeah, yeah.
I
You
was gonna
go.
touch upon this. Yeah, like what do you feel about people who say that some people just can't learn languages, and like if you just have to be gifted, it's an innate talent.
All right. So I used to say like everyone's created equal, and anyone is capable of learning. It's just a matter of like time and effort you put into it. But now with times, I just realized it comes easily to some people, and it takes more time and effort to others. So I thought of this analogy of like some people just are naturally good at spelling. It always came naturally for me to me. I've been a stickler for like grammar and correct spelling. And for instance, my sister, like she's terrible at spelling, and I always kind of poke fun of at her for that. I don't know. We were just wired differently. I guess if she put thought and effort into studying, I think she could get better. So the same with languages. I think some people are naturally inclined to absorb that knowledge, retain, like remember, review those words, and they are able to produce those words a bit more quickly. And so we're not, equal, in that regard. So
Yeah,
I
again, it
think we're
doesn't
definitely,
necessarily mean that you can't learn the language. It just might take you a bit longer, right? Like than
yeah.
someone who is predisposed to it. And I like the point that you made about like, yeah, like your brain being wired a certain way. I kind of feel this way as well. It feels like, this noticing concept, right? That you're like paying attention to linguistic phenomena almost subconsciously, right? Like, it is sort of ingrained like in certain people. Like in me, for example, I notice it like, yeah, as far as I can remember myself, I've always paid attention to, I'm not necessarily like a stickler, as you said, for grammar and like spelling and punctuation, but when I'm writing, for example, yeah, I am aware that, okay, I'm not quite sure if this, comma belongs here. Yeah, like then I go to check if I'm really, interested to find out. And then you check again and again and again, and same goes for vocabulary. You're like, oh my gosh, like this word came up. I kind of feel like I've seen it before. Seems like a useful word. Then you go check it, you write it down. Maybe you put it on a flashcard.
so you go down this rabbit hole. So it depends on how inquisitive you are in the first place. If you're into it, so you will explore more, you will discover like some rule. I always like double check how it's spelled. I don't want to like make a bad impression. So that's part of the habit as well, like looking
Yeah,
up
I'm not sure
things
if
and
we
checking.
can call it talent. Yeah, like mostly like maybe your default mode of thinking, because we had a situation the other day with my partner where I was like there was like some Russian word that I asked the meaning of, and they were like, well, it means this. I think it was like the word original. I was like, what does it exactly mean? And they were like, yeah, something completely different. Like, and people associate words with like completely different things. Maybe it's just, like, original document, the one that has like this, blue stamp on it and you can use it. And they just know that particular case of usage. They don't necessarily analyze, each and every word and then kind of trying to figure out like the core meaning. And I feel like people who are sort of like quote unquote talented in language learning, they do like all of that brain processing sort of, right? Same with accent, right? Like you seem to have picked it up, right? Like at first, I mean, like you did some conscious study as well, but right, like you said that it kind of came naturally to you.
Yeah, pick up some things just by being exposed to them. For instance, I heard the word school and like, oh, there is something like, it's not just school, it's not school. There is something, there. And I tried to imitate it, even though I had no idea it's called dark L and there is like an extra schwa. I didn't know about, there is a sound that's called a schwa. It has a special name. But again, it's all about maybe it's a level how interested you are in that, how inquisitive you are.
But then again, to make it perfection, you still have to practice it because like you do say it in certain words. For example, me. Yeah, like I didn't know that dark L existed as well, or like that there's an extra schwa or like bang, like, like there's like this extra E kind of like there. And I was like saying it in certain words, but in other words, I might have missed it. Yeah, and then you kind of have to make yourself conscious of it anyways. So even for people that are talented, language learning is still pretty complicated.
Yeah, you still kind of have to lay the ground rules in terms of the theory and the basics, like how it's produced, and you can't solely rely on your ears. So it still requires extensive reading and practicing. And one more tip that just popped into my mind, and I want to pick your brains about recording yourself. How you feel about that? So useful.
I feel like that is so First of all, it makes you fall in love with the way you sound, because a lot of people are kind of repulsed by that at first. Like we don't hear ourselves the same way we actually sound, and it is shocking at first. And then again, for accent training, and again, I feel like it's so important, even if you don't want to become as close as possible to a native speaker, it is crucial to record yourself, just because a lot of people, especially adults, they're just afraid to adopt this new personality because it feels like a different personality in a way, right? And recording yourself, you can kind of see where all the gaps are. Same with vocabulary and grammar. It feels like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking so fluently. And then you listen back to yourself and it's, complete garbage. And you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much work that needs to be done. I still do it from time to time, not as diligently as I used to. Like, perfection is a lie, as they say. But I mean, I'm trying to persuade my brain that it's a possibility.
Yeah, I have to record quite a few feedbacks and realize of my shortcomings, that I tend to overuse those filler words or add those pauses, like pregnant pauses, where I just need more time to think, or I repeat myself, or I like restart the sentence, or I use like my sentences are too short, it's not coherent. So it's all there. Being aware of that really helps. That's the first step.
Yeah, but there's a line there that you don't need to cross for anyone listening. Like, don't beat yourself up too hard, because it's really easy to slip into overwhelm and feeling like you're not worthy anymore. All of the years you've been learning are kind of a waste. So
but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then you just get used to it, to the sound of your own voice, like to your whole demeanor, how you come across.
I could really relate to the point that Julia made. It just resonated with me when she said that, like, for a while, for the longest time even. Yeah, she had to like strain her voice because it felt like, yeah, she has to sound like some type of way in English, like sound different, like a different voice almost. And that's why she had probably like a lot of tension or something. I could definitely relate to that. Feel like, yeah, you kind of go through phases where you listen to yourself and you can't quite differentiate between hating your voice and you not sounding a certain way. Did I really nail that sound, or is it just my voice is, nasty? I don't like it.
Right.
So is it the sound that I failed, or do I just hate my tone?
Yeah, absolutely. And when an accent trainees, reaches out when I have someone is doing like some accent work, I'm like, do you like the sound of your own voice? Yeah, do you like the way you sound in English? And most, likely they're gonna say no, and that's the first step. So the goal is not to pull the wool over someone's eyes and pretend to be American, but just kind of to listen to yourself, to watch the video of you and not cringe. So that's the goal, kind of to like the sound of your own voice and how you sound.
And it kind of gives you this superpower when you start falling in love with your voice, when your accent improves, step by step. You no longer feel the need to impress everyone around you with fancy words all the time, because the native speakers don't really talk like that. Like, they do use all of those words that we learn, but only when they need them, like to stress a point. You kind of relax into the language and you regain that pleasure that you used to derive from learning and just, absorbing the language. So I feel like you guys are doing amazing work.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
There's so much to talk about when it comes to language learning. I feel like you could have a 5-hour conversation and still
it is
not
a bottomless
cover.
abyss. Yeah.
Yeah, for anyone listening, as per usual, I always say, don't be too hard on yourself. Cut yourself some slack. Give a pat on the back. Yeah.
And reach out to a professional to give you a pat on the back if you can't for now. Yeah, we're always there to help.
When I found our courses and I, signed up, I did not expect them to be so good. First of all, like, the first impression, like, was the slides. I don't know who created them. Nina, Irina, you probably, like, all of you guys. I was like, oh my gosh. This is not just, hardcore language learning. This is also aesthetically pleasing.
Absolutely. Every time I open the file,
right? Like now that I've opened it so many times, it doesn't fail to impress you.
So, and leave your best and worst pieces of advice that you ever came across. So we urge you to...
share your thoughts, your pains and tortures and successes as well.
Yeah, trials and tribulations.
Language learning.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Toma, for doing it with me.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah,
as
likewise.
always. Bye.